Good evening. It's another Thursday, and of course, the day that the Lord has made. Good evening to everybody that is tuned in and watching. You are welcome to Ubuntu channel. Now, this is Nsaka, the program that comes your way every Thursdays from 21 hours going all the way up to 22. We do apologize for bringing the program a little bit late. This is due to circumstances beyond our control. But however, we are so glad that you could tune in and be part of the program. Now, remember, you can get to share your views, your comments on the program by commenting on the platforms that you are watching us on. Invite your friends to be part of the program, as today we are discussing a topic of so much importance. We are talking about child upbringing. How do you raise your children? This is the topic of discussion this particular evening. And of course, I am not alone in the studios. I have with me my co-host that hasn't been here for quite a long time or for quite some time. But we are glad that she is back. Himba, good evening. How are you doing?
Good evening, Lance, and I'm fine. How are you doing?
I am doing fine. Not only me, but the whole Ubuntu family missed you.
Oh, thank you so much, and it's nice to be back.
Great. And of course, this evening we continue having our usual guest, marriage counselor for over 30 years, and also former member of parliament, plus a wise man, I would say, though I know he would refuse to be called that. But hey, you have to give people accolades while they are there. Give them their flowers and don't bring them when they are normal. This is none other than Evangelist Shaabula. Evangelist, good evening and welcome to tonight's broadcast.
Lancy, good evening, and Himba, how are you? CJ and all those that have joined in, good evening. You are welcome to the program. I'm ready for you.
All right. Okay, Himba, please. I want to be the first one.
Okay, please
All
go
right.
ahead.
Thank you. Let me be the first one, Evangelist Shaabula. Since I'm the one that looks like a millennial here on the program and that wouldn't maybe or didn't experience the Kaunda era of growing up where spanks were a thing, where Nkanyo Kwapuliwa na Mtengo wa Maruben was a thing, or where atate bako would tell you enda kasicholere mukwapu paweka so that bakukwapule didn't grow up in that generation. Let's talk about child upbringing. Maybe let's describe this. What is child upbringing? How can one bring up their child into either the way of the Lord or in the right way?
This is a great topic that we have tonight. It is great because this is where we sharpen and shape the future of our family members, the future of the community, the future of the nation, and the future of the world. In Tonga, we say chikombole. Chikombole, this is a mold which we use in order to make bricks. We can form bricks in any form or shape in which we want them to be, depending in which chikombole or mold we are using. So we are talking about how each parent, each family would want to bring up their children. What program are you putting in place in order to come up with children who have got certain things that you would want them to meet? It is like, Himba and Sunny, Lancy, it's like one who wants to build a house. When you want to build a high-rise building, a skyscraper, you'll be very mindful about the foundation, how deep the foundation will be. the materials that you are going to use in digging, in building that skyscraper. But if you are just building a bathroom, a small bathroom in the village, you just dig probably maybe 6 inches deep, and then you put your poles there, and then you are done. So everything begins with a parent. How far do you want your children to go? What character do you want to give them? What kind of life do you want them to live? So your extent of desire to put your children up there will determine what you are going to use in building their characters. Your foundation will be deep. The materials that you are going to use will be durable. Let me put it this way. When you want to raise a child who is going to be a leader in the nation, you'll be concerned about discipline. You'll be concerned about how they dress, how they speak, who they play with, the school they go to, the education that they're going to attain, what they do in their spare time. All these are components that are going to build a successful child that you want to be. If Himba, you want Alex to be a president of a nation, to be a minister, to be a judge, to be a permanent secretary, to be a doctor, you have to set a certain standard which you are going to use in order to bring him to that level. So it is not just anyhow. It's not just a matter of ubara chabe mwana, then you throw him to the wind. Not at all. There are certain things that you need to do in order to raise that kind of a child. Let me stop there.
Thank you so much, Evangelist Shaabula. And in our tradition, they say someone doesn't cease to be a child. So I would want us really to be specific when we are talking about a child or children. Who are we talking about here? I would want us probably to give a short definition of a child, and then we describe who are we talking about here, Shaabula. So shortly, please. And according, I would also want you also relate it to the Zambian law. What or how does our constitution defines a child, and or how does it describe a child? Not ya tradition, as long as ninakubala, you are a child. No. We want to really to know who we are talking about here.
Himba, now you are taking me back to Parliament. I used to be in the legal committee at Parliament, and I want to tell you that the Constitution of Zambia describes a child as somebody who is below the age of 16. And another piece of legislature also says somebody who is below the age of 18. So there is a bit of a confusion here. But whatever it is, we can say a child is one who is below 18. Anyone who is below that is a child. Now, in this context, going by the way Himba you put it, we are looking at a child from conception. Mumimba, Mida, a child in the womb of the mother, up to the time when that child is 18 years of old. This is the child that we are going to talk about today. Sometimes I'll begin oscillating. I'll also talk about those that are above 18, because there are those that are above 18 but are being kept by the father, mother, brothers, and whatever it is. There are still also children in the family. But today's emphasis, it is from conception, from 0 up to 18. Thank you.
Whoa. Please go ahead, Himba.
Having said that, I would also want for us to describe, just to add on what Evangelist has said before I go on with my question. I would also want to make it clear that this child is somebody who is emotionally, physically, psychologically, and spiritually still growing. So literally, we are talking about a person who is still growing in all the parts, and they're looking for guidance from either is it the guardian, is it the parents, whoever they are staying with. So, Shaabula, please shed more light when we say this is a person who is still growing.
Okay, I think let me get into details. Hello? Let me get in details. First of all, the moment a wife conceives, the moment a woman conceives, she is pregnant. Training of the child begins. I'll repeat this. From the day the woman discovers that she is pregnant or she has conceived, training of the child begins. How does it begin? It begins with the control of appetites, what the mother eats at conception. I'll give you a Bible backing. In the book of Judges chapter 14, you find the story of Manoah and Mrs. Manoah. When Mrs. Manoah conceived Samson, Manoah and Mrs. Manoah had to consult God to say, how are we going to bring up this child who we have conceived? And God told them, you shall not drink a strong drink. You shall not drink alcohol. You shall not cut your hair. You shall be a Nazarene, for you shall begin to deliver the children of Israel. In other words, God set apart Samson for a holy purpose. And that work or that job, that function, the role that Samson was to do, it required a certain caliber that he had to carry with him, a certain character which he needed to have, which did not require a confused state of mind. A state of stupor was not required. So the appetite was controlled from that time. And when Samson was born, we see his mighty and what he was able to do as a result of the mother's appetite. When you are pregnant as a lady, control yourself. Don't eat imbeva. Don't eat those funny foods which are not supposed to be there. Ati ni kununkira chabe mova, nifuna nizimwa maningi mova because I'm pregnant. That appetite must be controlled. So from childhood, appetite must be controlled. From pregnancy stage, appetite should be controlled by the mother. There it is. When Mary met Elizabeth, Mary the mother of Jesus Christ, that is in Luke chapter 2. When Mary the mother of Jesus Christ met Elizabeth, who was pregnant of John the Baptist, Mary said, my child in the womb leaped, anajumpa, mumimba, when you said, Hail Mary. In other words, a child in the womb has the capacity to hear things around him or around her. And therefore, mothers need to control their tongue, what they say and what they do, the way they cry, the way they laugh, their behavior, even before the child is born. Science has proved that. It is very, very important. I'm talking about a child who is in the womb. The mother has not even yet delivered that child. The child has not even seen the sky, the sun, even the face of the mother. The appetite of the child must be controlled by the mother, as the mother prepares that child to be a leader in the world.
Well,
number
thank you so
much. Yes.
Okay. Anyway, go on. I think I'll ask the question after the number 2.
Yes. Number 2, even the child, before the child is born, the mother and the father must live a life of integrity. Integrity is not for politicians only. Integrity is for human beings who will lead a life of leadership. This is, we are talking about a life which is free from accusations. People will not point a finger at you for something that they think you are doing. Now, if you're integrity, you've got integrity, you've got character. That character of yours will be transferred to the child who is going to be born. By the time the child is born, that child will find a charter. That child will find laws and rules which she will have to follow. Now, when the child is born in a family where rules are already made, a charter is already made, that child is likely to succeed in life. Number 2, when that child is born, the father and the mother must be united in disciplining that child. I'll repeat. The father and the mother must be united. They must agree the kind of discipline they are going to give to their children and how they are going to give it. If they are going to use a stick, a whip, both of them should agree, yes, we shall use a whip. If there is no whip that will be used in the family, both of them, they should agree that there will not be a whip in the family. When a child is supposed, if the child is supposed to do some manual work, the father and mother must agree that their children will do manual work and not them playing or watching TV. Then the maids and the servants begin to work in the house. Because if that is allowed, then the father may actually force the boy to do some manual work when the mother says, this is not for our son, it is for the servant. So it is very, very important for these two to be united in disciplining their children. The other point that we must understand is that the father should get involved in raising children. What did I say? The father must get involved in raising children. Many fathers are absent fathers. They are busy bees. They are out there looking for money to put butter on the table. And then the children are left watching TV or these electronic gadgets. They are playing music. They are not attended to because the father is out looking for food. There is a danger in doing that because children cannot be brought up by machines, by
All right. Sorry for that. We seem to be having connectivity problems. But however, in case you have just tuned in, you are watching a live broadcast of Nsaka on Ubuntu channel. Now, Ubuntu channel is an online channel that gets to bring to you exciting programs starting from Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday through to Saturday and Sunday, as we get to bring to you different programs that get to cater on different things that are happening in a human life. Now, today's topic is child upbringing, and as usual, we have marriage counselor for over 30 years as our guest in the studios. That is Evangelist Shaabula. Now, before Evangelist got cut off, he was given guidelines, or he was given a few things that constitute or that preparations to make as you are getting ready for you to have a child, in terms of upbringing the child in the way that you want. Now, you can be part of the program by commenting on the broadcast, whatever that you are catching us from. So if you're watching us from YouTube, please make sure that you get to comment below the broadcast. If you are watching us from Facebook, make sure that you comment below the broadcast, and later on the program we'll be able to share with you the studio link so that you can come through, join us in the studio and be part of the program by asking your question, by sharing a view and whatnot. Now, Evangelist, I know you have started in this process, but I would love to bring you back when we started, when Himba asked a question of who is the child and all these other things. You mentioned an issue to say for you, for a child to be brought up well, you have to start preparing for the child. But mukazi akalina mimba, you need to restrict yourself from certain things or from certain appetites if you are to start preparations of bringing up your child in a way that you want. If I'm komboni Evangelist, we believe that mwana komboni yonse tikulisira pamozi. So ngati kweni nkala mwana wanga maybe na 2-3 years, vaneba can discipline my child, or vajeva nkala pa next na vaneba can send my child, because it's a community, it's Ubuntu and things to do with that. Now, my question here is, doesn't that attitude or that belief of Ukti community can raise a child hinder on the plans and ways of how you as a family have planned to raise your child to be a child or a person that will be appreciated by other people? To say, uja mwana wa bandani ni mwana wa mushema ningi alina ulemu ama mverera saka na kumutuma, or this and that.
What you need to understand here, Mr. Banda, is that the community will not teach your child. Even if you live in a community, in the compound, the community will not teach your child. The community will only comment on the behavior of your child. The teaching of a child is entirely in the hands of the father and mother. They may only comment to say, uyu mwana samvela, iwe siya kumwa moba, you cheat like that and what. It just ends like that. Now, maybe probably for you to understand, let me use the word, it is the responsibility of the parent to train the child. Now, there is a difference between teaching and training. In Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6, the Bible says, train up a child. Train up a child. Now, in English, when you say, this newspaper is bent up, what do you mean? When you say this newspaper is bent, what do you mean? When you say you train up a child, or when you say train the child, what does that mean? To train up means completely in all areas, in all endeavors. The child must be trained in his speech, in deeds, in actions, in everything. The child must be trained. When you say the newspaper is bent up, it means there is no trace of a newspaper part that has remained. It means the whole newspaper is devoured by fire. That is burning up. When the Bible says train up, it means your child should be able to learn from you, should learn from your actions, from what you do. When you say teaching a child, you are talking about verbal words coming out of your mouth. But when we say training, it means do it together with your child. Let the child see how you are doing it. If you are saying do not fight, it means you, the father, you are not going to fight the mother to your child. That is your wife. You are not going to insult neighbors. You are going not to steal. You are going to be an example. That's what it means. So the community will not be an example to your child. They can merely teach the child, but you have the responsibility to train up the child. I wonder if Himba, if we can get you.
Thank you so much, Evangelist.
Yes.
What is your comment over parents who've got a tendency, even when their child has committed an offense, maybe against the neighbors or even in the house, and this parent would be like, if you want to see my other side of me, temper with my child. And those parents who defend whatever their child has done, for them, it's all perfect.
A boomerang is a club which is shaped in C shape. When you throw a boomerang, it will go and hit the target and drop there. But if it misses, that boomerang will come back to you. Now, those parents that defend their children for wrongdoing, in most cases, they end up harvesting that which they planted in the children. Because a child will feel protected, will feel defended, and therefore the child will even do worse than what was done at first, because he has got the protection of the father, protection of the mother. So it is not right, no matter how much you love your son or how much you love your daughter, to defend them or to side with them when they are wrong. Wrong is wrong, and wrong must be condemned. If we support a child or protect a child who is supposed to be punished or who is supposed to be castigated, we are actually digging a trench and bury that son of ours. Because anything wrong that we do, in most cases, will have a negative part on the life of that child. So such parents should avoid it like the way they avoid COVID-19.
So really, if there are those children, I would love you to comment on the parents who love, like a parent would be smoking in front of the children, would be insulting in front of the children, would be fighting. Some parents even go with their children to go and interrogate or even attacking somebody in presence of the children. Some, they even send their children. What advice do you have to such parents?
Those are representing the kingdom of the devil. They are representing the kingdom of the devil because they've become teachers and ambassadors of the devil. They are teaching their child to be bad. They are teaching their child to be cruel. They are teaching their child to be unkind. They are teaching their child to be hard-hearted. They are teaching their child to be disrespectful to parents and to the laws. And eventually, the law will catch up with such a child who has no respect because he was not taught. Now, what I want to say here is that, this is character. When we go to the grave, we go with our works. Our works means character. Even that child will not only go to prison, but even in death, they will say, there goes a thief, there goes a liar, there goes a wicked person, because that person was assisted by the father and the mother who encouraged him. So we as parents, we should not encourage our children to do wrong.
Here you are in a home, you've got dependents as well. And the child, there are people who believe that even when their biological child has committed an offense in a house, the other children, the dependents, they are the ones who should suffer. What is the best way of handling such a situation where you have the dependents in the house and you have your biological children? How do you discipline where needs arises that discipline should be done?
That case is very, very straightforward. I'm talking about a parent who would want to help his child to be a proper child, to grow in the right way, in a disciplined life. When we set rules in the home, we do not set rules for one group of people and then the other group is freed from those rules. When we set rules, those rules, first of all, they must be followed by ourselves who set them, and then followed by everyone in the home. When we do that, we are going to start, first of all, respecting the rules that we put ourselves by keeping them, by following them. When we become good examples, when children see how we are respecting the rules or the laws, then it will be easier for them also to follow suit because they've seen it from us. Most of the things that God did in the Bible, he had to set an example. The Bible in John 3 verse 16 says, for God so loved the world that he gave. Christ loved us, he gave. Even as if you love anybody, we do whatever we do, we need to give. So there is an example that is set for us. Everything that God did, he had to set an example. Even us in our homes, if we think that our biological children will be affected by the law that we have put, then we should remove them from our home to go and live elsewhere. But you must understand that you have removed them from something that is going to keep their lives longer. Because the rules keep you from danger. Rules keep you from prison. Rules keep you from sickness. Rules keeps you from hospital problems. So if we follow rules, we shall live longer and enjoy life. So those children that are favored, in most cases, they die early. Sometimes they'll begin going out, womanizing, or whatever, living a backward life. They are going to catch sicknesses and they'll die early. And those that you wanted to penalize, to inflict with the laws of don't move, don't do anything, just be at home, you are actually elongating their lives. You think that you are being rude, you are being cruel, you are victimizing them, when in fact you are protecting them. That is how God deals with the foolish parents. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Evangelist. Let me get to bring you back or take you back to the basic norms. We have parents that have different norms or different styles of disciplining or maybe raising their child. You may have the banders that have a different way of raising their child. They have set their own standards. You have the peers that have their own standards of raising a child. You have the moyos that have a different way of raising their child. But in a community or in a society, you find that these are different ways of how these families have set to raise their children. But in a society, you find that different parents will condemn children of other parents to say, ababana sibamvera, or ababana, they behave in this certain funny way, because that's not a norm that they have in their household. It's a different norm in the other household. Is there a universal norm of how one should raise their child, so that at least my neighbors or people that see these children behave in that way, they'll say, yes, so because we all believe in different things.
You know, there's you are very, very right that each family or each parent or each family has got its own ways of raising children. Now, what we must understand is that, whatever formula they use, at the end of the day, there are what we call expectations, community expectations, national expectations, expectations from individuals. We expect them to actually, one, to have respect for the elderly, respect for property, respect for time, respect for each other, for amongst the peers. That is expected. It doesn't matter from which family you come from. Number two, you are expected not to fight others. So if you don't fight anybody, that is a job well done. You are expected not to lie. It doesn't matter which family you come from, as long as there is no lying. You should not lie, and that is good. So those are expectations. So what I'm saying here is that, we may have different formulas of raising children, but they are what we call community expectations and national community expectations, which must be seen in our children. So anybody should be able to see that uyu mwana aina ulemu, uyu mwana sanama, uyu mwana swaulesi, uyu mwana swadoti. Those expectations are what will show that this child is from a good family or from a bad family. So that is how I can answer that, Mr. Banda. The issue here is that, we may have different ways of raising children, but they are what we call expectations, or the way we raise our children. Does it meet national expectations?
Evangelist Shaabula, thank you so much, and we appreciate your guidance. There's a component of children whom I also would love you to comment or talk about. There's in a home, sometimes there are children we keep who are orphans. In most cases, orphans are most delicate children to look after from both sides. Whether when you are good to them, even when you mean well, this orphan is going to say, because they are not my parents. Even when you mean bad, these are very, and sometimes some, not all of them, some they take the situation to use it to their defense or to blackmail the guardian. What will you advise the guardian who wants to discipline an orphaned child in a house?
Thank you, Himba. In fact, failing to discipline an orphan, failing to give work to an orphan, failing to send an orphan to do some manual work is actually discrimination. If you are not going to send that orphan, because if I send him, then people will say this, then it will be like this, then it will be what? Then you are discriminating. In the first place, when you bring an orphan in the home, before you even bring that orphan in your home, it is important to source for acceptance in the family. I'll repeat that, Himba, you didn't get me. It is important to source for acceptance in the family. Meaning that that child who is going to join your family, in the first place, must be accepted by everyone in the home. How is this done? It is important to explain to family members, those that will be found in the home, that, dear friends, my elder brother, you know my elder brother, Morgan Shaabula. You know Morgan Shaabula died 2 weeks ago. Now this Morgan Shaabula has a daughter or a son who is left behind. So this young man now has nowhere to go to. He can't find school, he will not find this, you want what and what to explain. So that is the situation. Then bring that to yourself. Suppose I die today as Herbert Shaabula. You, my children, and nobody takes you into their homes to take you to school, to do this for you, to do this for you, to leave you on the street. How would you feel if this is done to you? You begin what is called reasoning with the children. You don't just tell them that somebody is coming. You reason with them. Bring out facts and issues. We call it figures and facts. When the children begin to understand that for sure that person must come and join them, or else that person will suffer, even when that child comes to join the family, you have prepared the minds of the children, of other children in the family. And two, you have prepared also the mind of your wife, who has a responsibility over that child. She will understand and be able to help that child. But if you are just going to say, no, you are creating a problem. If you are bringing that child using powers or your authority because you're a husband, that child will suffer in the home. Now, and when he is going to be sent to do some manual work, that child will begin to feel that he is being victimized because you are sending him for work. Now, the other issue which we must understand here is that orphan will feel victimized or will think that you are cruel if you yourself, your children, are not working. Your children watch TV while he or she is working. Now, the children see, they look at what is happening, and then they relate it to themselves, and then they make conclusions. So if you do not want that to happen, Himba, give assignments equally to the children in the home, your children and those children that have come to join you. Whether they are not orphans or they just came to be kept, but as long as they are under your roof, you treat them equally. If it is work or assignments, give them equally. You tomorrow, you do this, you do this, you do this. The next day, swap them. If somebody was going to look after goats or after cattle, let that person now go and fetch water. The one who was fetching water must go to look after goats or animals. If it is raining, let your son, first of all, go and bring the animals when it is raining, and let the orphan see that your own biological child is also in the forefront of doing those hardy chores. When that is done, the child, in most cases, will not look at you as a cruel person. What creates that problem, Himba? It is the way we handle children. It's the way we receive them in our homes to be orphans or to stay with us without explaining to members of the family so that they know why that person has come to join them. Because if that is not explained, then they will start looking at that person who has come to join them with a negative eye, and they would think he's just an intruder when he's not.
Thank you so much, Evangelist. There are situations in these homes where the parents, they've literally left the upbringing and the disciplining of the child to the house helpers. Maybe in our local language, you call them maids. You know, the maid, meanwhile, the maid ends up to be actually the role model to even these children. The parents, they literally relinquish their responsibility as the parent to the house helper or to the maid. So in other homes, you actually find that the children can even speak the maid's language better than their mother's language. And they even have more faith in the maid than in their parents' So what advice or what will you say to such parents who literally relinquish their responsibilities to their maids?
Again, Himba, I want our listeners and viewers to listen very, very carefully. Do not allow TV, maid, worker, neighbor, friend, school teacher, or any situation to replace you as a parent. These should not replace you as a parent. Your parenthood cannot be replaced by anybody. Now, when you leave your child in the hands of a maid, sometimes your child will start behaving like a maid instead of behaving like a daughter. Your children will be singing songs yakalindula when they're supposed to be singing songs of praise in the church. The behavior of the maid will spill over into the life of your son or your daughter or your children, in short. We should not replace our responsibilities with the maids. The maids, first of all, they are actually called the helpers. If somebody is a helper, then it must be that there is the owner of the work. That person is merely helping me. I'm responsible to clean my house, to sweep my house, to wash dishes, to clean my bed, to do all house chores. It's my responsibility. The maid, who is called a helper, only assists me to reduce the burden of my work. And therefore, the life and the future of my children cannot be replaced by a maid. Number two, I cannot be assisted by a maid. The work of the maid or this helper in my children is probably only to wash them when they mess up their pants and to feed them. But character development, I'm saying character development should come from me. It can only come from me if I'm going to spend more time with my children, more time with that child. If you spend your time in the tavern or spend more time watching football, or spend more time in your business or behind the counter or in your office, then the maid will replicate her behavior, her insults, her anger, her nature into your child. And later on, your child will begin insulting and the child will be laughing.
Thank you so much.
Let's not replace our position with any other person or any other situation.
Thank you so much, Evangelist. And in case you have just tuned in, you are watching a live broadcast of Nsaka on Ubuntu channel. Now, this program comes your way every Thursday. If you are a mother out there, you are an aunt, you are a grandpa or a grandma, make sure that every Thursday, 21 hours, you make a date with us right here as we come through to make sure that we give each other knowledge. We always feature on this program Evangelist Shaabula, who is a marriage counselor for over 30 years. And apart from that, he is a former member of parliament. So therefore, at least you have an idea of what you get right here. It's all about motivating.
I think we are.
Okay, Himba was saying something, but it looks like we have an internet glitch right there. But hey, the program is open.
I think we are having challenges with Lance and Evangelist. As we are talking about the maids taking up the role of a parent in this child's life, I'd like you to elaborate more for the parents to understand that really they are role model to these children, and if they are not careful, they may be actually creating, or they may be actually be the one nurturing a robber tomorrow. So I would want the way they talk to the children, which is the best way to talk to the children, because even when the child has gone out of way, there's the way you talk to them, because that anger, it makes them sometimes feel unwanted, sometimes feel unloved, and they would literally try to withdraw from the family. At the end of the day, some children, they end up finding solace and love on the streets. Will you please shed more light on that?
Well, thank you so much. I want to understand that when that child, before that child was born, that child lay in the mother's womb. I want to use you, Himba. Sorry, I don't want to offend you.
It's all right.
Alex, your son, lay in your womb. Meaning that already there is a connection between Alex and yourself through the umbilical cord. there is that relationship. That is why it is difficult for anybody to separate you from Alex. If anybody try to separate you from Alex, then he'll be asking you to stop breathing, which is not possible. Now, if somebody is going to begin to teach your child manners which are not of your taste, then it means that person has come into your field where you have planted maize. That person has come to plant weeds, so that the maize is choked and does not grow to the full size. When somebody begins to teach your children bad manners, they are actually destroying the future of your children, and they do not want them to get anywhere better. So that one is an enemy. Parents must not allow negative friends, or friends, they are friends who have got bad behavior or bad characters or bad children, to teach their children or to handle their children, or even to leave their children in the hands of these bad friends. Even for 1 hour, to say, I'm going for shopping, let my child remain. Because in that 1 hour, this bad mother, this bad family can teach your children 3 lessons in 1 hour. Himba, you remember that at school, we used to have 1 lesson composing of 40 minutes. So in 1 hour, there are 3 40 minutes. Meaning that if your child is left with this bad family, your child will learn 3 bad behaviors. The child will learn how to insult, the child will learn how to steal, the child will learn how to disrespect other people. In 1 hour, a child picks 3 bad manners. So parents, it's all up to you to make it or to break it. By who you associate with, by who you leave your children with, by who your children plays with. A parent must know the friends to their children, where they play, where they go to play, who they play with, what kind of games they play, how they dress when they go to play. This is very, very important. If you do not know the friends to your children or to your child, then withdraw your child until the friends to your son or your daughter are introduced to you and you approve of them. How do you approve of them? You look at their dress codes, you look at their language, you look at their hairstyle, you look at the paintings on the face, you look at the tattoos on the body. All these things, they will tell you the kind of a child will be after 1 month. So parents have got a responsibility. But all this, it requires unity between the father and the mother. It also requires time. Invest your time in your children. Not only your time, invest your prayers in your children. And above all, these children, when we are here on earth, we are preparing them for eternity. If they are poorly prepared, they will end up in hell. If they are properly prepared and are given a character of Jesus Christ, heaven is their storehouse. So choose what moves you forward.
All right. Thank you so much, Evangelist. And hopefully now you can get me. I think it's about that time that we let our viewers to come in and be part of the program. So we have shared with you the link on the different platforms that you are watching us from, either on YouTube, on Facebook, or on Twitter. We have shared in the comments box the studio link. Please join through, be part of the program, share your sentiments, share your view, or better still, comment on how maybe you have raised your children, how you were raised, and what you feel is a way of raising your child. Evangelist Shaabula is our guest this particular evening. And of course, we can get to read a few messages that have come in as we are waiting for the messages. For those of you that have tuned in for the very first time, this program comes your way every Thursday at 21 hours. Now, on this program, we always feature Evangelist Shaabula, who is a marriage counselor for over 30 years. So you can call your grandpa, you can call your grandma, you can call your married friends to be part of the program, as we always make sure that we talk about topics that are of human interest, that are of public interest, because we believe in molding one another. We believe in sharing the good with one another. We do not know it all, hence the reason why we always call out to you, the public, to come through and also get to teach us what you know about a particular topic that we are discussing. Evangelist, as we are waiting for people to come through in the studio or for comments to come through on the screen, I have one thing. Modern day parents, I would love to call them that, or I would love to call us that. We, the modern day parents, we have let television to raise our kids. Each and every time we leave our kids either to be on YouTube, we leave our kids to either watch television. We do not censor what they watch. As long as they have the remote, they have the screen in front of them, we are all good, because we are busy with work, we are busy with other things that we are doing. Is that a better way of raising our kids? And what type of kids will those be if we continue letting the screen raise our children?
Mr. Banda, I want to say that technology has improved lives. Right now, people are able to see me and hear me because of technology. And because we put it to good use, it can work for us. The same technology, if we put it to bad use, technology can fight us. Technology can destroy us. Technology can kill us. Technology can destroy our characters and our future, depending on how we handle it. So, I want to look at the TV from a negative side. The positive side, probably, excuse me, is that, from TV we learn a lot of things. We get enlightened, we get educated, we get entertained from what is happening. And so technology adds value to us, the same TV. But the TV, if it is not controlled, can devastate our lives, can devastate our future, can make our children live a different life, a crazy life, a life which is not acceptable. I'll give an example. There are programs which are very destructive to the life of a child. I'll give you an example of films where there's cruelty. There are guns used, there are axes used, knives used, stones used, and various methods of killing or producing blood from somebody's body. Those films can destroy the mind of a child. Now, for those that have done psychology, I've done psychology. When a child is at the age of 2 years old, 2 to 5 years, the mind of the child rotates so fast. That's why a child can touch this, leave it, touch this, leave it, touch this, leave it. The child is trying to identify objects. The child is trying to identify situations and be able to interpret what that is. At that time, the child is born with a clean slate. There's nothing on the head, on the slate that is written. The child is trying to write something on the slate. Meaning that if you are going to expose a child to thefts, to accidents, to wrestling, all sorts of things, kung fu, people fighting.
It looks like we've lost Evangelist Shaabula. Maybe just to add on what he was saying, it's like between, as he said, that between the age of 2, that's when the child is able, the mind rotates very quickly because they are trying to identify objects and they can multi-purpose. At the same time, we should also understand that from the age of 0 to 7 years, this is when the child is actually, they are actually recording whatever you are doing. They are recording. They are like a tape recorder. Then at the age of 7 and above, that's when they'll start like playing. So really, the foundation of the child is cardinal. So when we talk about upbringing of the child, it starts at a tender age. And as parents, I think parents should always remember that they are role models. And at this age, they should be very careful what they do, what they say to the children, what they impart to these children. They should be very, very careful. You hear most of the people, they would say, no, the foundation, foundation, just like a house. Over to you, Lance.
Well, thank you so much for continuing on what we are discussing this evening. Now, remember that if you have just tuned in, you are watching a live broadcast of Nsaka. This program comes your way every Thursday at 21 hours as we get to discuss various issues, various items, and different topics that border on human interest and of public interest as well. And this evening, we are discussing child upbringing, or how to raise your child in a home. So, of course, from the precepts that one would take from our guest this evening, Evangelist Shaabula, one would take to say, even before the child is born, you have to start planning on how you will raise the child. Now, planning on how you will raise the child is not all about, akabadwa tizakamgulira njinga, tizakamgulira wheelbarrow, tizakamgulira chan, but you also plan on the norms, the values that you will put in the child. And I don't know, Himba, if I can put you on the spot and and get to ask you something as we are waiting for our guest.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. Many are times that we have seen children derailing or going away from their parents' teaching, or because they have met friends or people that believe in a different perspective from what they are taught. So they want to try it out. These are teenagers, they're 13, 14, and they're trying to experience life. They hear from their friends, and Kuma, that's where there's life kulitugelo, there's all these activities of life. And then you were brought up in the way of the Lord, you give respect to elders, aliens wewaoneka mukuru paliwe ni banti bako ni amami bako ni banko bako, all this and that. At 14, you try to derail because you have found people that believe in different things. As a parent, how, if you start noticing that, how do you bring back your child from going into a wrong way in what you believe is the right way?
That's a very brilliant question, Lance. I'll try to answer it to the best of my knowledge. One thing we have to bear in our mind is that there's always a stage in one's life where somebody has to experience things. And even in their learning, children, as they are growing, there's what we call experiential learning. They are learning through experiments. And that time, they would want to try. And that's the time the parents needs to be constantly communicating with their children. Whether we like it or not, there's an outside community which does not comprise of our family. And that community will always have an influence on our children's behaviors, our children's upbringing. So what we need to do as parents, we have to be best friends to our children. We have to be role models. We have to create a rapport with our children where we can engage, where we can talk, where the children will trust us, that even when they go out there, they are given information by friends which they don't understand, they don't want to try it. They'll still come and open up to the parents. We need to create time for our children. We need to have once in a while what is called parent to child dialogue, where the parent has just created space for the child to talk to the child. And if you have many children, maybe you have more than one child, please treat those children as different individuals and create their own time separately. Each child would want to have their personal relationship with their parents at a different level. Even the dependents we have in our houses, lands, they would want to have that relationship with their guardian. So as parents, as guardians, let's make sure that we have a very good rapport with the children in the house. We have very good communication skills. We have parent to child dialogue at all times. And this should be consistent. Let's not leave gaps in these lives of the children so that somebody will come and fill them for us. Let's be available to answer unanswered questions which they meet from their peers in the community and everywhere they go, Lance. Over to you.
Well, thank you so much for that. I'll still put you on the spot. I'll still continue with you on the spot because there are so many concerns or questions that would be raised by people or different people living in different communities. You will agree with me, Himba, that we have people in the society that believe in whipping or beating or kapena kumenya mwana ndiye discipline chabe amene iliko. If mwana has done something wrong, atukana, akanosuka mbale, or akanochita any house chore, this parent or these parents believe in tikamenya uyu mwana azamvera mairo azakasuka mbale or mairo azakapyanga mnyumba. Then we have another set of parents that believe in mwana kumenya sikuso tinga chilichonse, mwana nkukamba naye because naye alina matu amamvera mkamkambisa azamvera. Now you have these two different parents that believe in different ideologies, and then you have this child here that either has grown up in both environments. Maybe my parents bake believed in kumenya nishibamuika mo straight line, then unfortunately my parents bafa ambusungiwa na baanko who believes in ife stimenya ife chikamba chabe tikakamba ofunika wamvela. You have this child. How do you deal with such a situation?
You know, Lance, bringing up children, we have to be wise, and you have to be patient, and you have to understand these children at individual level. You should not just cover a blanket. And even situations, there are times you're going to understand that here it's the talking that needs. Here it's the beating. Even when I beat, how do I beat? We can't say beating doesn't work. If hands benzomenya petenzo kula. Benzo tumenyera kumozi na milandu yapanga baneba na milandu yapanga bafana bako baza kumenyeramu ndio zalandila. We used to receive those, but in our days, with the human rights that have come on board, children, they've got human rights, they can sue you. There are a lot of things that has come on board. It has to take the parent to understand the children at personal level. You have to know, how do I deal with this child in this situation? Because children, they've got their own ways of behaving at different times. They are not the same. Sibaza kankala semu bana kuzangala ati lero no kondwela apa lero achitako ka experiential learning afuna achiteko experience apa banzake bamunama. You know, there are a lot of things. So as a parent, you have to be wise. And when you are wise, don't forget to consult God. Because if you are going to take the upbringing of your children in your own personal hands, you may miss it. God is always the key as well. Seek for guidance from God by praying and by introducing the children to God as well. So you have to know your children individually. I'll keep on saying that. You have to know which is the best way to discipline them. Is it by talking? Is it by punishing them? Sometimes you can just punish a child. You just get the things they love most. You just get suzaisoberesa toyi yako lero. Lero suzaenda pali bandani kwenda osobera because wachita so na so na so na so na so. What is still important, even when you beat a child, at the end of the day, you should be able to communicate why you've done it. You don't just hit a child and leave it. Sometimes even these hittings, they are not justifiable. Just because mama even in a pressure or wachita anger blochesela pamwana. So you really have to be smart. And some children, when you don't explain things, you don't engage with them, they treat it to be they're being ill-treated. They take it to be like, I'm not loved. I don't belong to this family. They end up isolating themselves. They end up closing up for the family. They'll end up, now you're even pushing them more to their friends. So you really have to be careful which method to use in which situation and at which level, how you have to use that technique to discipline a child. I think, Lance, we are also running out of time. Over to you.
Yes, we are running out of time, but Himba, you will agree with me that there's a lot of things to talk about, especially in the upbringing of a child. Maybe I'm putting it maybe in commas. This may be the last issue. You will agree with me that the more you are beaten as a child over an offense or over different offenses, chimabwachecha jairika chekutinjea okuti nchichite chibazanimenya vizaba abanizalira vizasira, and you still continue doing chija chintu cheba kulesa because wankalamanje ojaira bamanimenya ntimbo zinajairika na kubaba zinaleka. You even shed crocodile tears. So is beating a better way of teaching a child to do the correct thing? Or maybe there should be other methods of training up a child, either in the way, in fact, not even either, training up a child in the way of the Lord and in the right way.
As I earlier mentioned, there are many ways. All you need to do as a parent, you have to be wise. You have to know which is the best method to use with my child. If you don't know your child, you won't know the right method to use to discipline them when they've committed an offense. You know, as I alluded earlier on, sometimes the child loves to watch TV. There's a certain program they love to watch. All you have to do as a parent, today you are not going to watch that cartoon because you did this, because you did this. And the child will be able to understand. You know, so there are many ways. I totally agree with you. Beating is not the best way, but sometimes it works. And you know, we've grown up some of us, we are coming from that kind of background. And one thing you should also bear in your mind that in this child upbringing, there's also the culture values, there's the tradition values that we should not, you know, bringing up a child, it's a holistic, you need a holistic approach. It doesn't stand alone. You're going to find that where you apply this technique, it has to be supported by another technique. But all in all, you have to know your child. You have to build a personal relationship with your children. You have to understand when your child is happy. Sometimes, even when the children misbehave, it's not that they are indiscipline. Sometimes they are trying to communicate to you. Sometimes there's a message they are sending to you. And as a parent, you should be able to pick it up and know how you are going to tackle. Over to you, Evangelist Shaabula.
Thank you so much, Himba. You are a counselor. I've listened to you attentively. Thank you so much. I was explaining before I went off. I was explaining how the children, you know, from the age of 2 up to 9, can be able to grasp things and use them, you know, in their older life. You know, when children are not properly taught from the age of 2 to 9, then you have lost them. Himba, that is it Chanda, the son?
Yes.
Your son?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. that age where he is now, he can tell you that, Mom, this is not right, and this is right. He can give his reasons, sometimes very convincingly, that you cannot outdo him because he has reached an age where he knows what is wrong and what is right. Even when you tell him what to do, he will first of all analyze it, put it to test, evaluate it. Then, if it makes sense, then he will follow. If it doesn't make sense, he will not follow. But a child of 2 to 9 years, whatever you tell them, they will follow. And so this is the period in which parents have a strong, must have a strong relationship with their children in order for them to teach them and find enough time to be with them and teach them. Because that's the time when their slates are empty and they need to be written. So if they are written using, with love, the children will have love. If with cruelty, then the children will be cruel. If you use insults, the children will be insulting. If you use discipline, the children will be disciplined. So it depends what you put on that slate. There is one thing that we must understand. Following the rules of the game in the house, in the family, it depends on the relationships we cultivate between the parent and the children. If we treat our children as our friends, we treat our children as people that we respect and we love, our children will listen to us and our children will follow what we say. If we are going to give them good discipline, but using wrong words, wrong approach, our own children will not listen to us and they will do things that will displease us. Let me talk about discipline. For example, a child goes out to play on the road and it's dangerous, and you feel, no, the child has done this for a long time and needs to be disciplined. In most cases, before the child is disciplined or caned, before you cane the child, the most important thing is to explain what has gone wrong, find out why the child was playing on the road, and find out whether he understands the result of playing, or what would happen if he played on the road, and find out if he at all is deliberate or it's not. If you feel it's deliberate and you've talked enough and that you want to cane the child, it is always important to talk to the child. Let the child understand, and it must be done there and then, while the wound is still fresh. Because
Evangelist,
if you are going to discipline a child, let me finish the point. If you are going to discipline the child 3 hours later or 5 hours later or 2 days after, to say, this is what I'm doing because you did this and this, the child may have forgotten, and the child would think you are merely cruel. So it is important to know when to discipline and how to discipline a child. Ask your question.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Evangelist. Time is not really our best ally, but let's get to at least accommodate one caller, or let's get to accommodate one person to at least ask a question or express a view, and then we give it back to you to answer or attend to that pure question, and then also I will give you a minute and half second for you to put through your closing remarks, as well as Himba will also give you a minute and a half to do that as well. Director, let's get to see if we can have Lawrence so that he can get to express a view or ask his question. Lawrence, hi, good evening. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Lance. Good evening.
All right. Thank you so much. Quickly, you can get through to your point.
Always nice to speak to you, Evangelist Shaabula, and thank you so much for your wisdom.
I'm grateful. Okay. I'm grateful. Thank you so much.
I just want to hear your perspective of this. Something that I've noticed in this modern day parenting is that parents are more focused on being friends with the children, unlike the old style that we grew up in, where we saw parents as merely disciplinarians. We would even have nicknames for parents. I remember we had Godbeg, we had all those kind of things, because we knew if I mess up with this man around, things won't end well. So every time parents were around, children would behave accordingly. But in this modern day, parenting, it looks like children are free to express themselves and even be mischievous in the presence of their parents. I just want to get your view on this. The old way of parenting and the modern way of parenting, where we want to be friends, which one is really advisable? Because at the end of the day, the results from the past are that we have seen we have seen ourselves grow up into responsible citizens, unlike what we are seeing now, and we are losing a lot of children to, especially.
All right, your time is up.
So I think that's basically my question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. And obviously, on a lighter note, as I let Evangelist and guide him on the time that he has to respond, Lawrence seems to still be mischievous because he still has a nickname for his parents, even up to today. But however, Evangelist, in responding to Lawrence and as well as in putting through your ending remarks, I give you 2 minutes and a half second. The time starts now.
Number one, we must understand that there are certain situations that worked to the advantage of the family that time. When we used to receive corporal punishment, it worked well for us at that time. Now, we are moving away from corporal punishment to friendship punishment, whereby you use logic instead of using physique. That is what we are moving to. And the psychologists have proven that a child who is loved and cared for and is befriended is likely to understand and receive more than the child that obeys because of being afraid that you'll be punished. Now, when a child begins to respect you on account of being afraid that they'll be punished, it means that when you are not there, they will say, when the mouse is away, the rats take the freedom. So meaning that the children will be mischievous when you are not there because you are not there to punish them. But when you are they are a friend to them, you explain things and they'll be able to understand. So, in other words, what I'm saying, I want to ask you and myself to move to friendship parenting, whereby children become our friends rather than our enemies, rather than fighting when we're disciplining them. So that should be moved away. Yes. Now, the Goldbeck situation, it helped at that time today I was talking to my two daughters, where they were saying, that time, Daddy, you used to do this and this, punishing us, whatever. But I said, for sure, I see a lot of mistakes that I was making. But they both said, out of those mistakes, today both of us, we have this education and we have achieved this much. So I was very happy to hear that. So it also depends how this Goldberg comes to ram into the chest of the child, without breaking the ribs of the child. But if it can be done with love, at the end of the day, the child should be able to see that dad or mom are doing this because they love me, then that is good. But if the child is going to view that discipline or that punishment as cruelty, then that is wrong. So whatever we do, let's see to it that we are helping the child.
Thank you so much, Evangelist Himba. You have our 90 seconds, please.
Thank you so much, Lance. All I would love to say is that as parents, let us make sure that we bring up our children in a way that even when we are gone, they'll be able to stand up on their own. They'll be able to face the challenges of society. Let us make sure that we prepare our children that they'll be able to fit in every environment and they'll be able to understand life at every situation and be able to interpret things to their best and positive understanding. As we bring up these children, you should always remember that we'll not be with them for the rest of their lives. Lance, back to you.
Thank you so much, Himba, and also thank you so much, Evangelist Shaabula, for an insightful program today. But this is where we come to the end of tonight's broadcast, as we say our bye-bye. Remember to join us again tomorrow, obviously not Nsaka, but remember to join Ubuntu channel tomorrow at 21 hours as we bring to you another exciting edition of Ubuntu Sports. So you join Ruben. But if you are joining us for the very first time today, Nsaka comes your way every Thursday. So make a date at 21 hours. Let's get inspired, let's get motivated, and let's get to educate one another. Good evening to you, and thank you so much for being part of the program. Otherwise, we say enjoy the rest of the weekend.